Bear down, part of the Coach Steve Show, which means Zach's here. He's upgraded. I'm upgraded. We're all upgraded. Here we go.
Upgrades, people. Upgrades. It is time. Just like how the Bears are up, they might be upgrading their status to, dare I say, a goodish team.
I don't know what to do with my hands right now with this.
I have a tighter screen than you do. You got that whole space.
I know, but see, you look bigger. I look far away. So I'm like, oh my God, this is.
Just think of it. Look, you know what you've got here? You have the perfect comp for what Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk has. I am up on top of it. You have the entire setup at your disposal. Clearly is what's going on.
Oh, I suppose.
Clearly. It's clearly.
But if I zoom in, you can't see everything. So I have to keep it.
Well, no, that defeats the purpose. You got all that great stuff. I mean, Illinois and Alabama in one place. That's only Steve's experience you get right there.
Hey, college coaches will ask when I got the helmet or anything else. They're like, well, okay, wait a minute. You live in Illinois, but why do you have Alabama stuff up? And I have to tell them, like, okay, listen, I'm a Coach fan. Years ago, before he was at Alabama, I followed Nick Saban. I was a fan. And then people called me a bandwagon when he was at Alabama. So just to piss people off, I just started getting Alabama stuff. And I'm like, you said bandwagon, I'm going to show you a bandwagon. And I just started to piss people off.
Oh, well, it is what it is. I tell you what, we talk college, but hey, how about them Bears, man? How about the preseason of hype to the extreme? If you thought last season's hype train was ridiculous, this year at least, I'll admit, there's some justified, but we are back, baby. We know it's preseason. The hype train is at full steam. It's at 11 out of 10 on the knob right now.
And that's why I need someone to bounce ideas, because I did a solo one right after the first episode of Hard Knocks came out. I didn't have internet, so I couldn't watch it till the next day, because that's another thing that's exciting. We're excited about the draft picks. And then Hard Knocks is coming to Chicago, and that first episode was great. They showed the city. They were showing everything, and then the second episode, I wasn't as good, but it's still good. And then you're watching the preseason game. You're like, the Bears are back. And the hype level with this team seems so much different than it did when they drafted Justin Fields and even last year. It feels different. Dare I say it's more positive on the Bears, like Twitter, than it has been.
More united front than ever.
Yeah, we were all a little bit divided there for a little bit coming into the training camp, a little bit, just because of reasons of the O-line always is a question mark, because people blame the O-line, but that was a question mark. And the question mark is, you have a rookie quarterback. And is this quarterback going to be a leader? Is he actually going to do what needs to be done? And on paper, we have all the pieces. Are these pieces going to gel together? What's the defense going to look like? You got younger spots. What's the D-line going to look like? So there were some question marks. We were a little bit divided. And then all of a sudden, training camp hits, Hard Knocks hits, and all of a sudden, there's still some things out there, but it seems like it's coming together. And dare I say, I was on the positive side of it. I was like, I tweeted it. I'm like, wait, I thought about it. I was like, wait, I feel dirty. I'm agreeing with people. I felt very dirty.
This is a very new feeling here. Wait a minute. Am I feeling good? Now, look, I like this. I like what I'm seeing. If we're focusing on just the quarterback position, and I know that's the big talk of the town right now. Caleb has looked like, and he said all the right things that you see in the audio and any picked up microphone pieces. Definitely comes off as a leader and definitely has taken the reins full steam ahead right out the gate. There's no lack of confidence. And beyond that, the talent showing too. It's like he's not even really trying to mold anything. It's playing his game. Now, credit, one part that I do like, and again, we've talked about this, Steve, and this is what I wanted to see from a quarterback like this. And this is why I am glad that Caleb is showing a lot of his college kind of tools right now.
Yep.
He looks for the pass first. Yep. Now he can escape the pocket, but he is always downfield. He is always focusing on the pass. The run is the secondary option, but he can burn you with the run. He doesn't have to be the runner. He is a passer first at all different levels, and he can do it all of the weirdest angles. That's what brought me in when I watched his college tape. And it's what's kept me here when I see the highlights, when I see the stuff. They just can't have stalled drives against first team defenses. That's the only thing I'm going to knock. But regardless, the highlights are real. And it's pass first highlights with excellent run and mobility, which we knew he had. That's fantastic. That's what we want. People are already I've seen a few comments. Now, I'm not going to dive this crazy off the bridge here, Steve. There's already a few people saying that there's a Patrick Mahomes mystique about him.
Oh,
and I gotta pump the brakes there.
You better bleep that out. You better start bleeping that out.
You know, I heard that he's actually no, I'm not gonna do
bleep that.
That's the one time I've used the gimmick. We can't go back, but I have seen that come up though. And so
I've seen that too, and I immediately I'm like, no. Stop.
But this is preseason. You know that this is how you and I have done this for the last few years when we do these bear down talks. Preseason is where everybody gasses up your fan base. You are the best team out of 32 until the regular season hits you in the face with a haymaker and says, this is reality. So there is going to be a bit of that. But I got to say, the athletic freakishness of this man is real. Also, we have a legitimate backup quarterback that I would say for a security blanket for a guy that knows the system. It looks like I got no qualms. Dude at least looks like he knows what he's doing. And thank you, Tyson Bagent. You've added on to being one of my favorite Bears players right now. So,
yes.
Good stuff. That QB room looks set. Very much so.
For me coming in, because like I said, I knew Caleb wasn't playing in the first game, the Hall of Fame game. And I couldn't see it, but I have the NFL Plus, so I watched all 2022 a little bit just to see the different pieces. Then I got to watch the first episode of Hard Knocks, and then he played against Buffalo. And I think I said this before. It's been a while. I said I'm not questioning like arm strength. I'm not questioning some of the intangibles he has. My big question mark is how does he act in the locker room? How is he a leader? Because we saw I said this before a lot. I said if it was his Heisman year, I didn't have any questions because none of the stuff came out. Then the fingernail painting thing started, and then he has a pink phone, and people went after it. And then they lost their second game. He went and cried to his mom in the stands. The comment about he wants to go cuddle his dogs. And I'm not questioning his life decisions. Whatever you do, I don't care because you're not hurting anybody. But for NFL, like you can't do that. Like you are business. You have a job. You're going to pay millions and millions of dollars, and you cannot act that way, especially to other guys that are getting paid millions. Like you're going to be in a locker room full of men. Like these are grown men. Watching the Hard Knocks tape, that was the first thing I wanted to see. I was like, I hope they really show Caleb Williams. And what I saw was he interacts well with all the other players. He admits when he messes up because they showed, there's like, oh, he looks good. And they did that little montage of like, but he's a rookie and he's making mistakes. And I cannot remember who it was. Some receiver running back went up to him and said, you got to start saying stuff because this is your team. Like a player came up to him and said, this is you. Yeah. And you have DJ Moore patting him on the back. You have Keenan Allen getting along with them. So once I started seeing that, I said, okay, it could be an act because the cameras are on, but like you don't have time to think about acting because you have to remember the plays. You're going through practice. And then what I really like is his relationship with Matt Eberflus, like the way they meet one-on-one, the way they're talking. Matt Eberflus stands behind the quarterback and they have conversations, and the way he's soaking it in, picking it up, he's doing extra things. I said, this is exactly what I wanted to know and see from Caleb Williams. Now, when stuff hits the fan, if they lose a couple games, is he going to continue to act that way? Which I think he will, because you have DJ Moore and company as leaders. But that I watched that episode and I said, I feel way more better about Caleb Williams right now. And then when he played against Buffalo, like you said, good God. Like, I'm not saying he jumped off the pages, but we have to compare it to Justin Fields. And what did we see? There was a play where it was like 6 or 7 seconds standing in the pocket. Now it came back because of a holding call, I think. But he stood in that pocket, stood in that pocket. It broke down. He shimmied out. like he's supposed to, and he kept looking downfield. He didn't want to freak out and take off. The one time he took up off the middle was what he was supposed to do. It was man coverage. The pocket freaking went like this, and he took off like he's supposed to. But you could tell he didn't want to do it at first. He's looking downfield. The certain passes he made. Now, I know the second preseason game that he played in came to reality. He didn't have the same jumping off numbers, but he looked, after the first 2 or 3 snaps, he was so comfortable. And I know it's just preseason, and I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt because they're not going to show their whole offensive playbook. Defenses aren't going to show their whole defense.
Mm-hmm.
But for a rookie in your first time with this pressure, because Bears fans are thinking like Super Bowl, which I pumped the brakes on. Like, first we got to beat Green Bay. First we got to compete for the division. Like, we got to pump the brakes for a second.
Correct. Thank you.
I'm not on that boat yet at all because you have a rookie quarterback. Now, if this was his 4th year in and he was really good, and with these pieces, absolutely, you could sit there and say Super Bowl. I'm like, you got to make the playoffs. You got to do those things. He looked comfortable. He looked so comfortable with everything around him. The offensive line actually does not look that bad when they're healthy. Like, they do not look that bad. And he has pieces around him. The defense is fast. They look really fast around making plays, wanting to hit people. But if we're focused on Caleb Williams, if he can keep that level of like level-headedness, the comfortability and understanding, oh, good God. Like, it looks great. And the running backs they have to run the ball, play action. I like the shifts they do with their new offensive coordinator. He's shifting different formations. He's doing different things. He's not always looking for the deep ball. If you watch the routes, it's a short intermediate game that eventually they try to take the house off. And the screen, he was going to get hit. He did a little side thing. He's like, I know I'm going to get hit, but here you go. And I became excited. I watched it, and I was like, we made the right decision to get rid of Field. As of right now, you made the right decision. And I don't know if I've said that about the Bears. I haven't said that about the Bears in a long time.
It feels that way. I think that right now, I just like what I'm seeing. Look, I like that. Again, I don't mind if a QB has to run. If you see an opportunity, you've exhausted all your options, and you have it there, or say the pocket is completely dead, and you get that open ability. There is nothing available. Take that run. Now, credit, that takes a lot of processing. It's really fast. I understand that is a challenge, but the best QBs have to get over that. I like what I see from Caleb because, again, it's that mentality I want. It's what you want from a modern day QB. Even the Josh Allens, Joe Burrows of the world, they focus more so, and maybe less so Josh Allen, but Joe Burrow, if I wanted to throw him in there too. It's focused on that first, let's get that throw out. The throw is the more explosive, more effective play if we have it downfield. If it's not available, take what you can get and use your athleticism. And that's what I've been wanting. That's what drove me nuts with Justin when we were talking about this is, yes, we understand he is a freak of nature when he runs the ball. Okay. He can throw a deep pass. But the thing is, if your defenses, and we saw it at the end of last year, and this is why this trigger was pulled. If defenses know you're going to run and you are a deep ball passer that struggles with those mid-range passes or dumping down, how do you expect to win consistently and at a rate where you're going to meet some of the greats at that level? It just wasn't going to happen. And that's what, drove me nuts at the end of last year. And we saw it in Green Bay, and it was the final nail in the coffin for that. Now, credit, this is still early. It's preseason. Tennessee is going to be the jumping off point to this whole thing, for that quarterback discussion, along with many other things, because let's not forget too, Steve, I know that some people are giving Matt Eberflus a ton of flowers right now for these preseason games. I have to say, and again, it's just my personal preseason means absolutely nothing for a head coach. It only matters, credit, you evaluate the roster. I get that. In terms of evaluation, it does. But for the performance review and for the sake of, future endeavors with this team, sorry, it starts week 1 against Tennessee. And this is year 3. Yes, he has improved every year he's been here, but there's no more padding. You have gotten your quarterback. You switched out your offensive coordinator to Shane Waldron, who looks like I dig the system that he is running so far. When it's moving effectively, you are now officially running the defense. You've had an entire offseason where you are the coordinator, which, again, I like that positive move. Now execute and get the wins. Wins matter for how you're retained. That's how I've always seen it. And it's kind of the final chance. So, I'll let him, he's getting his grace period because I think there is that potential we're seeing. Again, the defense, you're not wrong, Steve. It's flying around, for the most part. Can it get pressure? To be determined. I know that's like one thing we're still kind of on the fence with right now, but secondary play, tackling, getting to the ball, the Matt Eberflus traits, they are on full display with him running it at its paces. I'm optimistic. The hope for me is we have, at least this year, while we hopefully have a good season, secondary generates the pressure, because I don't think we're going to get as much natural pressure unless we blitz or we keep QBs behind the 8 ball, or get a good run defense and then force passes all the time, and hopefully secondary holds up. To be determined, but again, a lot of optimism there. Still, got to execute and get some wins, man. It's do or die this year. That's what all of us are saying. This is a borderline playoff team. I've said this to you off this show. I've said to people in my life, this is a playoff or bust year to me for Matt. There's no excuse. So I digress. That's where I'm at right now. He has to be in the playoffs this season.
Yes. He has to be in position for that wild card. Like, if they're right there and they're playing well and whatever. But I do like how the players interact with him. That's what Hard Knocks is showing.
Yes.
Like, people like to have, they had this view, was it last year or the year before, where they were losing and there was all these reports like, oh, they're not getting along in the locker room and everything else and how he does things. You watch the Hard Knocks thing, they seem to get along with him. He seems like a player type of coach, and he has these conversations with them. They were doing the karaoke stuff, and he's laughing with them, and you like to see that. So I think, when we talk about college football, it takes a coach 3 to 5 years to kind of install that type of thing. And I know the NFL has to move a little bit quicker, but I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt of maybe year 3 when it finally starts to click, just because of the massive overhaul that they did. I even like the interactions they have with Ryan Poles, like that type of interaction. And then, like, I just listened to him. I never watched them because of whatever, but he was on Johns and Hogue or whatever it is, and I was listening
John's
to it.
Podcast, okay.
Whatever. And I was listening to it today, and I like I like Ryan Poles. You listen to him talk and everything about it, love it. The way he and DJ Moore interacted when he got the pay, I'm like, okay. And Ryan Poles was talking about on that episode was like, I love the dudes around here. I think we have the pieces. I think it's all coming together the way we envisioned, and it took a while and stuff like that. So I think it's just finally going to start clicking. And maybe it's because of Matt Eberflus's new look. I have no idea. Maybe it's the new look.
I know, right?
But
on the grizzly beard and everything.
Now, again, I'm trying to pump the brakes on myself because it's preseason. But at least you're seeing positive signs. Now, again, how's it going to act when the season hits? If you lose 2 games in a row or whatever it is, like a lot of teams do, how does his leadership take over? Does he fix coaching mistakes he's made? Because he's admitted to them. Like, how does he fix those? What does he learn from those? But again, you have an experienced OC that can help you out. You have different staff on there that's experienced. You have experienced players that can help with a lot of these things. Ryan Poles, now in his 3rd year being a general manager, he had to learn a couple things.
True.
At least,
true.
And I tell myself it's preseason, but they're still going against NFL players. So I'm still trying to tell myself, I don't care if it's second string or whatever, it's still NFL players. And so if we just got destroyed and he wasn't doing these things, then I'd be a little more concerned. But with the O-line, how they're doing, the running backs, the way they move, with how the defense is looking, again, we'll see what the D-line can bring pressure or not. But at least you're seeing signs in the right direction. Now, if we were just getting killed and everything wasn't looking right, then we'd be sitting here going, well, it's just preseason, it don't matter. So we kind of have to play both sides here. Like, no, wait a minute. If we were getting killed, and I know it's just preseason, but this is alarming. Because we all know if you go 3-0, 4-0 in the preseason, that does not keel over to the season. But
yeah, no,
it's our first look at the team, and if this is 10% or 20% of what the team can do, then you have to start to think, okay. And again, I'm not looking to beat teams 33-7 every game. Like, it's just not going to happen. Are we competitive? Are we making right decisions? Are we not turning the ball over? Are we actually forcing teams to beat us? Like, don't give up big plays. Are we getting pressure? Are they just like force them? If they go on a 15-play drive and it's just little things, I'd rather that than these big plays. Like, at least you're being competitive, but it's in the right direction. And so, like I said, I was in line at the ticket booth with Caleb Williams. Like, I haven't quite bought the ticket yet. I'm thinking about it. And then I watched Hard Knocks. Now I'm actually at the ticket booth. Like, okay, what do you want? Where do you want to go? Like, it's my turn. And then now I'm in the process now of like putting my card in the machine to buy the ticket. Like, and I couldn't say that about Justin Fields. Never could say that. So I'm in that process of like, if he can be a leader and play like this, and we stay healthy, I may have to buy the ticket and get on the train and get it moving.
Yeah. I am bought the ticket and through the security gate, so I'm kind of looking for my seat right now. Is what's going on. Look, I still am going to sit down, and I still look. We're Bears fans, man. I know that for a lot of people, it's easy to kind of just jump in. But look, if you're like many of us other Bears fans, we've been burned. It's a classic case of our history as the organization. So, I still have that little piece of me. It's like, this is Chicago Bears football, right? I'm like, yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up. Can I I'm going to push that thing aside this time. And I am going in fully this year as what I used to. Like, just, hey, screw it. This is going to be a fun year. You can feel it, I think, and like I said, even talking offensive side of the ball, like defensive side, like I think I like some of the change. I like some of the changes I feel in terms of like how they're using certain personnel if things are played out right. For example, let's talk I think a lot of the talking right now, besides Caleb Williams, has been Kyler Gordon this week,
Mm-hmm.
and I myself and you, I think kind of feel this way, maybe not the case, but I've never been fully impressed with his coverage ability, but he's a great hit stick guy. And I noticed this preseason now, they're basically making him like this aggressive nickel hybrid-y type of position where they're taking like what they wanted Jaquan Brisker to be, but they're saying, nah, screw it. Kyler Gordon's that guy. And it's clearly what they're doing. They're basically letting him loose and sticking him on the backfield or going in on the line. He likes hitting clearly. So it's like, hey, he can be a cover nickel, but like, let's use him as kind of like this bruiser. And I think that's honestly a better fit for him. I know Bears fans have been, there's a contingent that really love him. And then there's some like me that I've never been totally impressed with his coverage. And I feel like it's burned a little easy at times, but as a hit stick guy, he hits, he tackles well, and he is great at helping with run stuffing. I think that's his niche perfectly. If you can keep locking down these outside edges, and allow people to more roam freely in the back in the secondary, and not to mention, we have decent linebackers in coverage. Instead of saying like having Edmonds blitz, leave him back. He's great in coverage as more of a big guy with a large mitt to knock down passes. Let Gordon be more of your guy that you can kind of use and kind of mess with the defense or the quarterback because you don't know if he's going to send him. Maybe he comes back a little bit. I like what they've done with him from what I've seen in the two main games they played any starters defensively. I think he's going to be special this year because they might have adjusted to what he does best, and they take a little bit of the pressure off him trying to be a cover guy this year.
Right. I have the perfect picture to sum up Bears fans.
Mm-hmm. Let's see it.
I'm ready.
Every year.
I'm ready to be hurt again.
I'm full in on getting hurt again this year. This is the first time in a while, honestly.
Yeah. That's why I haven't bought the ticket yet, because we were waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it's like, what shoe is about to drop? Because it's happened over and over and over again.
Oh, of course.
NFC Championship game, Jay Cutler's knee hurts, and then that happens, and you're like, oh, okay. Then you feel positive. Well, he breaks his thumb. We run into Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. The doink, like just something's gonna happen, and I'm just waiting. And I know it's early and we're just getting going with football season, but like I'm just waiting and I'm being cautious. But I think another reason why he's so good, Caleb Williams is so good at looking downfield, is because the offense he was in with Lincoln Riley, like they pass a lot. He's constantly looking, and I've said this before about Justin Fields. That offense was not like this air raid thing. It was run the ball, RPO, play action, get it out quick, throw it up to your number one draft pick wide receivers that they had. And then another thing Caleb Williams is bad at is fumbling the ball when he runs. But I think being coached in the NFL, he's not going to do that as much. Like we said, like you could tell that was always his last resort was, I'm going to take off. I think in college, sometimes he tried to put it on his back and say, I'm going to run. In college, there were sometimes on the goal line, they would call quarterback runs because Lincoln Riley loves his GT counter read and keep the ball. They love that type of stuff. With our new OC with the Bears and stuff, I don't think they're going to do that. So I hope that number goes down. But then the next thing is they just got to stay healthy. Like that's going to be the biggest thing is staying healthy. Is he going to stay healthy? The O-line is actually pieces getting put in now, and they've got some pieces there. The wide receivers got to stay healthy because they're older. But there's some athleticism to this team. And so that's why I titled this, do we have a right to be excited? And I'm going to give myself permission to be excited. Like just
I think you should. You should.
For once be excited. I was excited after I know the doink thing happened, but going into the next season, I was like, well, if we did that, we should be able to do something like that again. And I'm going to be excited. And then ever since then, it's just never been so exciting. But I think as Bears fans, we have to be careful because if they watch the first Hard Knocks, Nick Saban out of his own mouth saying you've got to be careful with all these expectations that you put on a rookie because it can destroy them because if they don't meet them, how mentally can they handle it? So right now I'm on board with Caleb Williams' leadership and stuff. Like I can't remember if it was on Hard Knocks or a report. He told veteran players to clean up the locker room. He's like, we're leaving it a mess, clean it up. And I got really upset because then people on ESPN and Fox were like, well, mainly ESPN, they were like, there was some guy, maybe ESPN, he goes, how dare a rookie tell veteran players to pick up their stuff? Like, no, you're the rookie, pick up my stuff. And I'm like, wait, what? And so then I listened to Brian Urlacher on a podcast and they brought that up to him. The guy was like, well, how do you react to him saying that? He goes, I love it. He goes, first of all, we're adults, so pick up your stuff. Second of all, it's our locker room. Like, if this shows that he has a leadership thing to him and he doesn't care, if you're a veteran player or not. And so they said, well, so the guy was like, well, and he agreed with them. They were agreeing, but he's like, what if you left a mess and somebody told you to pick it up? Would you say, oh, you're the rookie, pick it up for me? He goes, no, you have to bleep this. But he's like, no, fuck that.
Oh, damn. Forgot to do it. Anyway.
And so when I read that, though, I'm like, okay, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see if he would be that type of person. And it seems like he is. And so if he, like I said, if he can handle it, hopefully if they don't, that's why I don't want the Super Bowl thing. Because if you put Super Bowl on top of a rookie like that, and they don't even make the playoffs, let's just say, how mentally would he handle that? Like, well, I was this golden child. I was supposed to go to the Super Bowl and then don't get there. So.
Yeah. Well, the context has changed too in how we look at rookies. I know it is outside the box for what season was last season, but I think now the casual viewing audience is going to compare every rookie to the CJ Stroud rookie season of all-time type of debut. And I think that's what we're hoping for, is something similar. At minimum, I think a lot of fans just want the coveted 4,000-yard passing season to finally be shattered, to be ridden of its demons, so we don't have to keep talking about it or talking about Sid Luckman or, Jim McMahon, although, hey, I'll talk about legends of the game, but, that's kind of the bar. And that's where the pressure, I think, comes from now, is you're like, more so the fact that we have this one-off season last year, but even more when you consider that the culture of the rookie QB getting in and going has drastically changed to where it is expected as the norm anymore. Tom Brady actually, again, hit on this. He's been very adamant about talking about how rookie QBs he feels shouldn't even be getting on starting like year one or starting off first weeks, but that's what's happening. And he feels he's actually, man, I don't remember what he said this. He said this like last week. He feels it dumbs down the game. And I was like, I don't know about that, but I mean, look, it's a business and fans want winning. So, it's just part of it's part of that. And it's also part of organizations and regimes keeping their jobs,
Yeah, I see what he's saying. Like, you want an experienced guy there, but a part of it is like, is the guy more athletic and is he making plays? And I think that's why people stayed on the Justin Fields thing for so long, because, and I don't want to beat that dead horse, but something bad would happen, then all of a sudden he has a 60-yard run. And so that flash in the pan kind of saved that and say, well, look what he can do over somebody else. And so I see what Tom Brady is saying with that. But Tom Brady, didn't you play as a rookie when he got hurt? Well,
now, actually, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to double check this and I'll also give you the quote here as well momentarily. But to double check with Brady's track record. So remember, he started in 2000, so he didn't get into later in the year. Thanks to Drew Bledsoe going out with injury. But well, it's just the thing. Kind of wasn't expected to go. Story is the rest is history. But to Brady's quote is as follows. He says, quote, "I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early. But the reality is the only reason why they are is that we've dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play." And that was him this week as of Fanatics Fan Fest, which has been going on. They got a lot of guests from around the sports world and whatnot that are being brought in to speak. And let me see here. He also goes, quote, "We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason in training camp trying to be a little bit better the next year. But I think what happens is it discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level. So they're just going to teach them where they're at." I mean, there's more of this, but like he's like ripping in like this is a systematic failure of NFL coaching regimes and like kind of how the game's evolved. I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with that per se.
I understand what he's saying.
Like the pressure on rookies is clearly there. That's not wrong, which does lead to, are these guys ready? A lot of them aren't. We saw the 2021 class, for example, like Trevor Lawrence is the only guy that's a starter that's like considered decent quality right now. Everyone else is either cast-offs or complete jokes
right
out of that class.
But what I would say to Tom Brady is, the thing to Tom Brady is they're not all you. They're not all Peyton Manning. They're not all Drew Brees. They're not all, those type of players. And I get what he's saying, but they're not all you. But if a guy is just naturally better, you have to play them. So I get what he's saying. Like, I don't think you should put the pressure on them right away as soon as they come in. Like, you're going to start. You have to earn it. Like, we all kind of knew Caleb Williams was going to start just because you're the number one pick. But I don't know. And then, like, you just have to look at the QBs around. Like, if you don't have Caleb Williams, who would we have? Well, we'd have Justin Fields or who? Like, no offense to Tyson Bagent. I love him. He's a dude. Like, that's a guy you can have a beer with. But, like, is that your starter? Like, who would you go out into the 32 teams or 31 teams and say, yeah, we could trade for this guy? Like, a couple years ago, you could have said Russell Wilson, but he's kind of he played well last year. But I mean, how many more years does he have left?
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, shoot, Justin Fields might be starting week 1. Sounds like that's, there's a lot of movement there that might change too.
It's going to happen. He's going to like start and like throw for 4,000 yards, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh my God, look what you guys did!"
Everybody wins, or something like that. I'll tell you one thing, Steve. If I had to take a bet on who Tom Brady feels is his favorite quarterback, I think it's Bo Nix, and I'll read off why. You'll understand momentarily. So this is more of that. This is from Pro Football Talk. They kind of summarize more of his quotes from the Fan Fest. So he goes, there used to be college programs. Now there are college teams. You're no longer learning a program. You're learning a playbook. For 5 years, I got to learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being the starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Now, credit, I might have actually second-guessed myself because Bo was a little bit of a system QB, but several years in college, a lot of these guys are coming out earlier. He's talking about like redshirt freshmaning and all that, getting the extra time or whatnot. I mean, shoot, man, that's Dylan Gabriel. If we're talking next year, that's got to be one of his favorite QBs coming out soon enough.
I agree with a little bit of that. I think he's talking about they are, as soon as they can go to the NFL, they're going. But I think that's starting to change because of name, image, and likeness. They can make money, so people are now staying in college. But the other thing is that this transfer portal. So in Tom Brady's day, you just don't leave, right? So you have
to give up a whole year in those cases too.
You have to give up a whole year, and then the coaches kind of had an influence on where you would go. So like you couldn't leave Michigan and go to Purdue. Like you couldn't do it in the same conference. Like a coach would like deny it. They'd be like, nope, you're not going here. So there was a lot of power back then. And so sometimes when you transfer, you may not go Division I or do a big program. You'd be like, we're not going to sign off on this or something like that. And so it was like, oh, you're transferring? Well, you're going to go to a sub power or a sub Division I. So there was no reason to leave, because people forget like Cam Newton was on Florida, like that type of thing.
Right.
Tebow, and I'm shocked that he got to leave and he left Florida to go to a JUCO just so he could go to Auburn. Like Florida would not if he went from Florida to Auburn, they weren't going to let that happen. So he had to go somewhere else. Ended up being JUCO. But now you have the transfer portal where you do learn a playbook, because if you start at, let's say you start in Indiana and you're at Indiana, then the next year you transfer. Well, you're going to learn a playbook again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bo Nix was at Oregon for 2 years or a year. I don't remember, but he stayed at Auburn. He stayed at Auburn for 2 seasons, and he was at Oregon for 2 seasons. Or even, I think he was in college for 5 years.
I was going to say he was like super senior. Well, keep in mind, he was also the COVID extension. So they got an extra year off that,
right?
Because you could add on. So, because my memory is he had 6.
Yeah, that's right. I think he spent,
because he had 4 at Auburn and then he finished 2 in Oregon.
Right.
Before he came out.
So I think that's kind of maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe it's not necessarily, because everything starts in college. Like NFL will copy college and college will copy the NFL. But you're not going to see quarterbacks like that stay in one place in college now for 4 years, 5 years, if they were redshirted, because if they feel like they can do something else, they're going to leave. And so when they leave, you learn a playbook. And so I get what he's saying, like a system. Like if you stayed with Nick Saban for 3 or 4 years and went to the NFL, you're learning a system. Like that's what you're learning. If you're jumping from Alabama, then going to Oregon, then you go to, Clemson. Well, as similar as a lot of things are in football, there's different terminology. Sometimes they want you to block things a certain way. You're going to read a certain way. And so that's where it's different. But with Caleb Williams, I know he went from Oklahoma to USC, but who did he stay with? He stayed with Lincoln, same coach. So even though he left Oklahoma and went to USC, he was with the same coaching staff. So I think if we're going to talk about Bears and Caleb Williams, he learned a playbook, but he was learning a system and a culture that Lincoln Riley wanted, right? And he was in college for 3 or 4 years. So like at least he was around things. And so maybe that's why he's picking up some things now that he's with the Bears, because now he's got to learn what they want to do. And so maybe that's how he was able to fit better, But the days of Peyton Manning's being at Tennessee for his whole time, Eli Manning being at Ole Miss, Drew Brees being with Purdue, Jay Cutler being with Vanderbilt, like you might find a couple, that stay at their college for at least most of their career, maybe 1 year go somewhere else, but you're seeing guys leave left and right. So that's another positive for Caleb Williams, is that even though we can look at the teams, he stayed with the same coach. So at least he knew what was going on. And that's why so much pressure was put on USC, was because, well, you already know what Lincoln Riley wants. You're USC. You should win a national title or be in the playoff. And that's why I want to see how he handles the pressure, because that first year he's Heisman winner. They only lost a game or two, and when you lose a game, you almost get knocked out of the playoff when it was 4 teams. But then last year, pressure was all on them. Like, you got to make the playoffs. And they didn't. Now, is that all on Caleb Williams? No, it's a whole team. But we saw how he handled it, right? Like the crying to the mom and the press conferences. And then, well, I don't know if I'm going to continue to play because I'll just go to the NFL and like all that stuff. And so that's where my question marks came. But it seems like right now it's handled really well. And so I'm trying to be positive. But with the Tom Brady thing, I get what he's saying. But let's be positive about Caleb Williams. At least he was around a system, and Bo Nix being older, I think, is more receptive to what's going on too. Like if he was 20 years old, it's not like that. And I think that's why the Baltimore Ravens have had success, because Lamar Jackson stayed at Louisville for a while. Like he didn't bounce around. He stayed at a place. They got him. They had to adjust what they do. And they're not winning Super Bowls and stuff, but at least in the regular season, they're really tough.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why Justin Fields' style, I don't think, wins Super Bowls, because we've seen it in Lamar Jackson. Like, you're not winning Super Bowls. You're not doing this. So that was my little rant, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing develop. And I'm curious as the years go on what NFL looks like if these quarterbacks transfer, and then they go to the NFL. Like, when you go to the NFL, man, like it's hard. You could demand a trade, but that's just not going to happen. Like, you're not going to sign a 4-year contract brand new out of college, and then the next year, like, I don't like it here. Send me somewhere else. They're going to be like, no.
Right.
Like,
you don't get that much leverage. And I mean, you already, for the teams, they lose it because, it's almost like in a way when you draft like a first rounder, or any draft pick, kind of evaluate, think of like a car valuation when you drive it off the lot, instantly loses and I'm not trying to compare people to products, but I'm just saying that like in NFL draft terms, that is kind of what happens,
Well, it's a meat market. It's a meat market. There, I hate to say it that way.
Right. I mean, it's weird. It's weird to talk about it that way, but that is kind of what happens is you lose leverage in that valuation, unless for some reason his rookie year was fantastic and you can sell that. But 9.5 times out of 10, you never see that. And like, that situation won't happen.
Yeah. And college is now a business. NFL is a major business. Like, this is a result. Coach Jason Brown from Last Chance U, he has a podcast. I get a lot of these phrases from him, and I hope he comes on the podcast. I'd love to have a conversation with that man. But he said, I got that from him. He says, this is a meat market. Like, you think about it, you're recruiting, you're doing this, NFL, you're drafting, you're signing people. It's a meat market. People are going to get cut here in a week when the preseason, when they got to trim the roster down. And it's a result-oriented business, right? Coaches, wins and losses, players are, you demand a trade, but you didn't play very well the last 2 years on your contract, so no team's going to trade for you. Like, you don't have leverage. Like in college, you transfer and it's just, everything is so weird than what it used to be 8 years ago, when you look at college and NFL. And it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up.
Landscape's different, man. That's all I can tell you, I know. I mean, look, I think also like that piece, just kind of to wrap things up. It's kind of like I'm not saying old man yells at cloud, but it feels a little bit that way just because he's talking under the center and like some other stuff. Look, the college game influences the pro game. I was talking to my dad the other day about this. I am very much in the camp that I think we see next few decades. I feel like next few decades, we're going to see the under center snap just get phased out entirely. Colleges have already been pushing the spread shotgun for so long, that you see these guys come out and it's awkward. Like we're seeing it with Caleb. It's awkward for him to go under center because most of his time, at least Lincoln Riley, and again, it's more popularized in college more than ever, you just you lose that skill, or you have to account for it. And, NFL adapts college rules or adopts college systems and schemes several years down the line. It's only going to keep getting more like college. That's the way college to pro has always worked. It's eventually going to come that way. That's my thing. I feel like my hot take. I feel like you're going to see the disappearance of the under center snap as a piece of the game sooner rather than later.
It's funny you say that because I'm going to come from a coach side. I'm not an under center person. We were in high school. Obviously, we ran power I triple option.
Mm-hmm.
I coached at that high school, so that's all I knew was under center. I went to a different high school. He's a pro style guy, so we ran under center. We were in shotgun. It looked like NFL. Like we'd be in I formation. We'd be whatever.
Sure, it's whatever comes up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was researching and talking to coaches. I'm like, I really like just being in shotgun. So when I became an OC, that's all we were. And everybody was doing it. And so we were the norm. And then the next two high schools I've been in, we never went under center, ever. And the more you look at the game of football, and I'm looking at it from a high school perspective, and then you can see it in college.
Yeah.
It's coming full circle back. And what I'm saying is, if you look at the run schemes, like when people went to gun, it was because of the air raid of Mike Leach and Hal Mumme. It was even before Chip Kelly. BYU was doing it, but then Chip Kelly did it, inside zone reads, wide zone read, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it just became more popular, right? And one of the only people that did the old school stuff was Gus Malzahn. He did buck sweep. He did all that stuff. Well, if you watch college now, they're getting back to having tight ends and wings, and they're running GT counter. They're running this. They are getting back to some of those old school things because the defenses are now being recruited and built for the spread. They're being recruited that way. So when you look at it, they're like, well, if they're being recruited that way, why don't we just go back to old school, sometimes run the ball? Now, are they still in shotgun? Yes, but you're seeing it come back. And so I actually had the different opinion of you're going to get people start to do in college some more under center because there's some things they can do. And so I think it's going to be funny when you see high school teams start to go back under center. I think it's going to be funny when you see college teams slowly go back under center. And then NFL now becomes full shotgun. And then all of a sudden NFL will be behind a little bit. And then they'll start to go back under center years from now, and then high school and college goes back to being, spread because so I have a different take, but I just think that you're going to see a lot of that. It's just a full circle because Chip Kelly made it popular. Mike Leach made it popular. Florida. People forget that Florida Gators team, yes, they were in shotgun every time. It was a wing T team just in shotgun. It was buck sweep, it was trap, it was counter, it was triple option. But people are like, no, they're spread. They were a wing T team just set up. And I don't know if the NFL will go completely away from under center because it's the NFL. But that'd be curious. I'd be very curious to see if that happens. But then things are going full circle. Things always come back because they work. And it goes against, because that'd be real funny seeing NFL get ready and they're like, well, we got to recruit guys to defend the spread because that's what they're doing. And then you can't find them now because colleges have come back to well, they're getting an 11 personnel, they're getting 20 personnel, they're getting 21 personnel, and then they're getting into spread. They're going back to their 10 personnel. So we have to have bigger linemen. We got to have this back, kind of like when Nick Saban got to Alabama. They were pro style and that's what they recruited for. Then Nick Saban saw what college football was really going to, adjusted it. Then when they faced Clemson, who wants to run power read, and got beat because they had the bigger guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird how things go full circle. Sorry, that's my other rant, but you just got my brain triggered on how it goes.
Well, a lot to take away. I mean, like we listen, like I said, Tom's kind of like the new voice of like, I'm the greatest player to ever play. Everyone's going to listen to me. I'm going to get an article written about me if I talk about the game. He's been invested in it. Plus, he's going to be talking about the game on a regular basis. He's going to be on there as the A crew there with Kevin Burkhardt this season. So you're going to keep hearing about it. He's going to put his thoughts on the game on broadcast at some point. It's going to come up. So I'm fascinated to see how he plays out. And hey, we'll get his analysis on Caleb Williams soon enough too, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Sorry, last thing my brain thought of, what a world it is that we have Tom Brady announcing games and Nick Saban's going to be on College Game Day. Like, what world are we living in right now?
That's crazy.
With Pat McAfee, Nick Saban and Pat McAfee. That's going to be awesome.
I know, right? And I thought Pat McAfee wasn't coming back. It sounded like he wasn't going to.
Well,
but he is here.
I've researched some of that. It's because I don't care anymore. ESPN is woke. And even though they hired him and he's on ESPN, they still think he's wild. They only want him because it brings eyes to you. Like, I'll tell you right now, I don't watch ESPN anymore. I will not turn on ESPN unless it is a college football game or an NFL game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will not watch them. I cannot stand it anymore. I don't watch Fox anymore unless it's a game. They will not get my viewership. It is never on the TV. And it's sad because what I do in high school, you always had ESPN on. What'd you do in college? I always had ESPN on or Fox. And I know you work for Fox. I'm not saying they're not good people. It's just I'm going to focus on ESPN.
Hey, you do you. I am not going to hold you back if you don't watch my company's stuff. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll stick with ESPN. I'll stick with ESPN because they were like the first big dog.
Yeah.
Like Pat McAfee and ESPN are butting heads, so that's why I didn't think he was coming back. Herb Street has now said, screw it, I'm going to say what I want, and I love it. And I'm reading and hearing how this may be his last go now because ESPN is just getting rid of people. And
he did go on some podcast recently and kind of just speak his mind in what most people didn't expect. That I didn't watch it. I just know that it did ruffle some, Twitterverse frenzy type of thing.
Look, people have their views. You can have your views as long as you're not hurting people. I do not care. You can come on here and say,
remember, focus on Ben the dog. Let's focus on his golden retriever, man.
Like, it's a great golden retriever.
Yeah,
and he's a great College Game Day guy. So, I mean, he's not hurting anybody. But yes, back to Pat McAfee. I was worried he wasn't coming back. I'm like, why not? He's electric. And then have Nick Saban on there too. Like, it's just going to be awesome. And then I know Tom Brady's going to speak his mind, but maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need some of that. Like, as long as Greg Olsen is still calling games too, because he's awesome at it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Greg Olsen and Tom Brady can do a game together. That'd be awesome. Have those two at a Chicago Bears game. That would be like the best duo right there. Oh
my gosh. Anything Greg Olsen is gold. I have massive respect as a commentator for him now.
And he has a great podcast about youth sports. It's great.
Mm-hmm. No, he's perfect for this space, honestly. So
perfect. And I think Tom Brady will be too.
I think so. I mean, I think he's going to provide the spark to talk that some of the stuff you want to talk about on Fox. I don't think he'll be a goofy uncle archetype like Tony Romo, but he's going to be like, I think he's going to try and be like Troy Aikman in a way. Like he's going to be the new Fox Troy Aikman, That's how I view it. I think it's what they're trying to go for. Yeah.
That's a great comparison. I didn't even think of that.
Famous, well-known QB converts to a color commentator role. Rest is history with an up-and-comer that is now Kevin Burkhardt that a lot of people like too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that sums it up.
Well, we're Bears fans. You can be excited. You have permission to be excited.
You should be.
You should be. You have full permission. If I'm excited as the negative Nancy Bears fan, I guess.
Yes.
You can be excited, and just don't go too far with it, right? Just don't go too far with it. We can be excited and live in the moment and say, hopefully things can come together, but we also have to be okay with if things go bad. And I'm not talking like we lose 8 games in a row. I'm talking about if we lose a game, we cannot be just blowing up like, oh my God, it's over. No, it's not. It's not, and focus on winning games and focus on the Green Bay Packers and the division. Those are the 2 things we need to be worried about. Oh, I guess the Lions, but they kind of fall into the conference.
Beat Green Bay. Beat Green Bay.
Right.
That's the minimum.
Beat Green Bay and focus on the division. If we do that, and that's all we focus on, the playoffs will take care of itself. And that's all we should do as Bears fans. It'll be okay. And enjoy Hard Knocks. I'm enjoying it. It's actually really cool to see like Chicago displayed, and for once the historicness of it. I love the intro with George Hallis. Like you get to see the historicnesses of it, and and I listen to Brian Urlacher more. He's kind of putting himself out there. He kind of gives his input, and he likes Caleb Williams, and so I listen to those people too, and they're loving what they're seeing. And a lot of people like Matt Eberflus right now, and people liked him last year too. Like no matter what people said, they loved the way he did it. So
I've never heard anything bad about him in the locker room. It's just, can we avoid trying to get like his kind of Nagyism type of press conferences again this year? Like that comes with winning, so we can avoid it.
They've been better. They have been a lot better.
I mean, this year they have, but last 2 years, it's nothing to be desired. I can't say press conference etiquette is like perfect for any coach, but like he's not a guy I really see as like being like into it and telling you everything or giving you something to go home with, And just don't give me like a Mark Trestman press conference type of guy or Matt Nagy type of guy. Just move on. I mean, Trestman was even worse than Matt Nagy. We know this. That was some of the worst.
I blocked that out of my mind. I had that blocked out of my mind till you said that.
Some of the worst interview like responses and just nothing burger answers in Bears history come from that man.
I
2
think
years
he'll be
of just
better.
What the hell?
I think he'll be better because there was that moment where they wanted to start and he goes, nope, I got to wait. And he waited for the normal reporters to come down and he goes, sorry, they'd all be mad at me if I didn't wait. And I'm like, oh, so now we're getting some humor. Now we're getting some humanisms out here. And so I think he'll be better. I think even Poles' talks are better. So I think they all are just kind of learning along together. And, I think they'll be better. I think things are looking up for once, and the most historic franchise out there. I think it's if we can. I'm getting ahead of myself. Green Bay Packers division. Green Bay Packers division.
Just beat Green Bay. Do the steps. Do the stuff Lovie Smith talked about when he came in. You beat the Packers first. You move on. You beat the division next. And you keep climbing that way. You got to beat Green Bay. It's the minimum thing you got to do. You got to beat Green Bay. Everyone's jumping the gun. Let's remember the mission. You beat the Packers. That's the first thing you do as a Bears fan. We got to get back to that. Start this year with that. Thank you. Although it'll be later this year, but I digress. Get the year right. Get one.
If they need help, I'm ready to go. I have my Walking Dead bat. I'm ready to go.
I have a bat, but it's not in this room. I do have my walking ring light, my social influence weapon.
Mine's a tall one over there. I can't reach it. It's as tall as I am. But I'm ready to go. I got my Walking Dead bat. Here we go. I'm ready to go.
Oh, so be good.
And I live farther away now from Chicago, so I'm good from all the pitchforks and knives. I'm way farther now.
You're in the peaceful rural areas of more centralized Illinois,
which is still considered a suburb of Chicago, and I don't understand why.
Well, they extend. It's amazing how far out you can consider a suburb of Chicago. I
lived in Naperville, and now I'm 30 minutes southwest of Naperville, and it's still considered a suburb.
Yeah, I don't know how the heck that's the case.
I didn't think it was. And then
if you're moving more west, that doesn't qualify then. Naperville's like very thin ice for some people if you talk about suburbs up there.
I was shocked Naperville was, but I said, okay, whatever, I'll understand it, whatever. And then I thought moving down here, they'd be like, oh, but you still see it's like, oh, welcome to Plano, the suburb of Chicago. And I'm like, no, it's not.
No.
But there is an Amtrak train that comes by, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
I mean, maybe I've heard of Plano. I disagree with that sentiment on suburb, but you know, you live your best life, but guys, you commit to that Chicago staple of Plano, Illinois.
Why? I don't know.
You can't escape, even though you did escape. It's funny.
So now I don't know how. I will end it like this. I don't know if I'll get to a Bears game now because I moved so much farther away. That's my only thing.
Screw it. Fly out here. Come visit me in early November for the Arizona one. Why not? CHGO apparently is doing a package where they're bringing fans out there with their crew, apparently. So.
Oh, perfect. To end this, I'll come out there. We'll set one up right next to them, and then I'll start yelling at Adam Hogue the entire time.
I got a nice couch for you over here. We'll crash. We'll go on over to Desert Financial and have a good old time.
We'll get the headset with the microphone thing, and we'll get going. We'll get it going.
Plans, people. We're getting plans.
We'll start a GoFundMe right when this is over. GoFundMe right when this is over to get it all set up.
Fund your plane ticket, our fees to get this to work.
We won't even get tickets to inside the game. We just want to be outside with the podcast stuff. We don't have to go inside.
Just let us tailgate with our mic setups. That's all we want. We just want to be there. I'll be home base. Don't worry.
And I'm going to make graphics saying like Bear Down Coach Steve versus CHGO, and I'm just going to start tagging them in it. I don't even care. You guys don't even know this is happening, but it's happening. Except Greg brags. He'd be the only one. I'll be like, hey, Greg, what's up? And then everybody else.
Greg could be like, what the world? How'd they get out of here? Never mind.
All right. God. That wraps up a good Bear Down segment. We'll be back to talk more Bears as it continues when Steve has a better set schedule in his life. It will happen. So
glad to be back.
Thanks for watching or listening. Back in. And we reached 1,000 subscribers the other day. Here we go.
Nice.
Still not getting paid enough, but it's happening.
Bravo.
So we got to get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. We got to get them through the roof. Thanks, everybody. Like, subscribe. Check out Zach's stuff. It'll all be in the description. Be ready for other Bear Down stuff. Go Bears. We'll see you next time.